It's early in the morning. I'm about to go to school. 咁而家好早嘅，咁我就準備咧要行路返學啦。咁 so I just like quickly read it and then I will walk to school. 咁我就快速地咧今朝讀咗書，然後咧我就去返學啦。So read to resist day 201. 當閱讀也是抗爭第201日。A Concise History of Hong Kong by John Mark Carroll. 香港簡史從殖民地至特別行政區，著者高馬可，譯者林立偉。Society. Although Hong Kong was a British colony and a predominantly Chinese city, like the treaty ports that dotted the coast and waterways of China, and like most cities in the British Empire, it was multi-ethnic from the start. In addition to the British and the Chinese, there were Eurasians, Indians, Portuguese from Macau, Jews from Bombay, other Europeans, Armenians, and Americans. As in most colonial dual cities, these communities lived in two main areas from the earliest days, with European businesses and residences claiming the better land, and Chinese settling mainly in small huts along the beach and on the overlooking hillsides. Governor Bowring lamented in September 1858 that the separation of the native population from the European is nearly absolute. Social intercourse between the races is wholly unknown. 社會雖然香港是英國殖民地，並且是以華人為主的城市，但它和遍佈中國沿海和內河的條約口岸，以及英帝國版圖內的大部分城市一樣，從一開始起就是多民族集居。除了英國人和華人外，香港人口中還有歐亞混血兒、印度人、來自澳門的葡萄牙人、來自孟買的猶太人、其他歐洲人、亞美尼亞人和美國人。一如大多數異原式的殖民城市，這些人群從香港開埠之初起，就分別在兩個區域各自生活，涇渭分明。歐資公司和歐籍人的民宅佔據較佳的土地，而華人則主要住在建於山邊海旁的狹小木屋。港督寶寧在1858年慨嘆，本土人和歐人幾乎完全隔絕，完全不曾聽聞兩個種族之間有社交往來。This does not mean that the Chinese and European communities had no contact with each other. All Europeans in Hong Kong, writes Christopher Munn, had a range of daily contacts with Chinese inhabitants, and a substantial population of Chinese existed in the colony to serve European or colonial needs. Rather, a mixed society evolved that was from the beginning determined by the political dominance of the British and the economic importance of the Chinese. Colonialism brought Chinese and Europeans into both collaboration and conflict, even more so than in other colonies, given the island's small size and limited land for building. Space in Hong Kong could be highly contested. Sources do not reveal much about how Chinese viewed the Europeans, but Europeans often complained about the smells and sounds from the Chinese community. Open-air markets and incense, musical instruments, and firecrackers from religious ceremonies, and the cries of hawkers and peddlers. European residents also frequently criticized the government for allowing Chinese residents to run houses of disrespectable women in or near European neighborhoods, or to profane the Christian Sabbath by holding theatrical performances on Sunday. Both European residents and colonial officials often complained that the Chinese built flimsy wood structures that were too close together, increased the risk of fire and the spread of disease. This contact between Chinese and British led to racism on both sides, but it particularly made many Europeans think of themselves as a member of a special community. 這不等於華人和洋人完全老死不相往來。文基然寫道，所有香港的歐籍人都和華人居民有各式各樣的日常接觸。這個殖民地內也有相當多華人服侍歐籍人或滿足殖民者的需要。由於英國人在政治上佔宰制地位，而華人在經濟上舉足輕重，因此香港從一開始就發展為混合型社會。殖民統治令華人和歐籍人處於彼此合作又互相衝突的局面。由於香港島幅員狹小， 可供興建房屋的土地有限，因此在香港爭奪空間的情況比其他殖民地更為嚴重。由於沒有充足資料，我們對當時華人對歐洲人的看法如何所知不多，但我們知道歐籍人常常抱怨華人社區發出的氣味和聲音，露天街市和燒香，宗教儀式上的樂器演奏和放炮竹，以及小販的吆喝叫賣。歐籍居民也常批評政府縱容華人在歐籍人社區之內或附近經營不清白女子的場所，又在星期天上演傳統大戲，褻瀆安息日的安寧。歐籍人和殖民地官員皆不滿中國人以薄木板所建的房屋過於稠密，增加了火災和疾病傳播的風險。華人和英國人之間的這種接觸令雙方都產生種族主義，但它尤其使許多歐籍人認為自己屬於一個特別的群體。So this is the end of the reading today. 咁今日讀到呢度啦。It begins to talk about racism. It begins to talk about how this conflict has formed between the Europeans and non-European community, namely mostly the Chinese community. 咁呢度開始講到咧，就係即係唔同種族嘅人啦，咁特別就係歐籍嘅人士同埋呢一個華人，佢哋點樣喺香港即係有一個即係唔同嘅習慣啊文化之後，即係產生嘅種族主義啦，同埋即係大家互相又不滿，但係又要靠大家即係做生意啊揾錢啊咁樣樣。So unfortunately, this applies everywhere still, right? 咁但係好不幸地咧，而家呢一種咁嘅情況其實咧全世界都繼續發生緊嘅咁樣樣啦。So from the point of view of Hong Kongers or Chinese at the time, it's like you came and took our land, so of course we would not be liking you that much, right? 咁即係從我哋本地人嘅角度去講，就係喂你嚟殖民我，咁我梗係唔會對你特別好啦，唔通我仲即係朝拜你咩咁樣樣 ？But also at the same time, in the Chinese saying is that and there is a saying in Hong Kong saying that, but you yourself is not really fighting for that qi, you don't really have the qi to so the meaning would be it's just that you didn't do anything that deserves other people's empathy, 咁即係我哋就會講，但係你其實即係自己人都唔係好爭氣啦，即係咁樣樣 ，right? There are people who would go to help the Brits, right? And then there are people who were just only looking at the money and they wouldn't save their fellow, poorer Chinese community. 咁即係當然亦都有即係有啲人就係你都係繼續去即係請啲英國人嚟幫佢手打呢個清朝啊，你都真係一樣係即係你見到自己人窮，其實你未必會幫啊咁樣樣。So there's all these problem, with money and then nationalism, racism and all these things that is coming together. 咁所以其實啲事情都係好複雜啦，咁歷史不嬲都係咁噶啦咁。So right now what is happening in China, people are paying attention and saying this is the biggest descent ever, in so many years after the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre. 咁即係而家係外媒經常報道咧，就係而家喺大陸發生緊嘅呢啲舉白紙嘅事情咧，就係即係因為都係六四之後，即係好即係冇好耐冇見過幾廿年難得一遇嘅即係中國人呢一個示威事件啦咁樣樣啦咁。But you can see is this idea of their idea of freedom is actually literally just about COVID rules. It's not really on a universal kind of value level. It's not really on the level of personal liberty. It's not on the level of sort of against the entire authoritarian regime per se. It's just really just this tiny little thing that is directly affecting them in their daily life that they feel, you know, like we just want this to be taken away。咁但係即係大家見到即係佢哋所講嘅自由民主，其實並唔係即係嗰個普世價值嘅嗰個自由民主啦，即係佢哋純粹即係就係你唔俾我出街，你即係佢哋叫封控係嘛？即係佢哋封控我咁樣，咁我就影響到我個人呢樣嘢，咁我就唔 like 啦咁樣。但係即係其實都唔係一個大我嚟嘅，比較係一個小我嚟嘅，我會覺得。So we'll still have to see like what happened and咁我哋都要睇下即係發生咩事啦。咁 today what they did is that they released the news of the death of Jiang Zemin. So this morning is kind of like when I read the news, I was like, okay, so this is again the same script, right? You know, whenever big things happen, they just give him bigger news just to sort of dilute and distract, right? 咁當然即係都係佢哋慣用嘅手段啦，即係有大事發生啊，咁我哋走去揾另外一件大事冚咗佢，或者即係係啦轉移視線啦咁樣樣。So we'll see， 咁我哋就睇下跟住發生咩事啦。And I'll see you again tomorrow， 咁我哋聽日再見，拜拜。